Welcome to the N1 Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Sadu, and today we're going to be chatting about productivity because time is so often the scapegoat for not being able to eat healthfully, maintain a movement practice, and get the sleep we need. First, I'm going to cover how I approach getting shit done. Then I'm going to run you through a typical day in my life as far as how I structure my work. And then lastly, I'm going to give you 5 actionable takeaways that you can implement today in order to be more productive and essentially free up additional time and space for yourself. Now, just a little disclaimer here, I am not the most productive dude in the world, but I have been running a successful fitness business for the last 8.5 years on my own. The only thing I've contracted out has been accounting because it is the bane of my existence and I don't even want to learn how to do it, so I pay someone else to do it for me. Meaning I do all of the coaching at N1, I built and manage the website, I do all of the social media, I produce, record, and edit the podcast from front to back, and I manage the N1 YouTube page. And also I've been doing this while living out of a carry-on size backpack and traveling the world for the last 2 years. So the point of me mentioning that is not for a pat on the back, it's just to illustrate how much you can actually get done day to day while still prioritizing your health and staying in shape. So the way I approach getting a bunch of stuff done is sort of by reverse engineering my day. And the reason I say that is because so many productivity gurus out there talk about waking up at 4 a.m. and meditating and drinking some sort of special tea while journaling about manifesting how the day is going to play out. And that's totally cool. However, I approach this stuff differently because what these folks often don't mention, most likely because it's not all that sexy, is that your quote unquote morning routine starts the night before. If you want to get up and have a productive day, let alone productive morning, it starts with a great sleep the night before. It is crucial that you wake up feeling rested and alert all day. And in order to do that, you need to provide your body and your brain with the sleep it needs. You can't just set your alarm for 4 a.m. after having gone to bed at midnight and crush the next day. It's just not going to happen. 7 to 9 hours is going to be the sweet spot sleep-wise, but the only way to truly know how much sleep you need personally is to go to bed early enough to wake up without an alarm each day. So productivity priority number 1 is sleep. Now that you're feeling refreshed, the first 2 to 3 hours of the day are going to be the most productive for the vast majority of folks. For example, productivity post-lunch takes a serious dip. So the morning is when I recommend you get the bulk of whatever you want to get done, and in the order in which you do things is really important. So do the thing that you want to do the least first. Whatever that task is that you have the urge to procrastinate on because for whatever reason you're just not feeling it, you make that the very first task you complete. This is called eating the frog. Mark Twain said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. It's really important to do this for a few reasons. One being, your motivation for that task is never going to be higher than first thing in the morning. It's only going to decline throughout the day. And number 2 is, by completing that tough task, your day is going to feel like a win right off the bat, and that's only going to create really solid momentum for the rest of your day. Now, here's what I'd recommend you not do. Go on social media first thing in the morning. And not because social media is inherently evil, but because it's a misallocation of resources, meaning social media does not require a lot of energy, focus, or attention. So it doesn't make much sense to use that really valuable first chunk of the day, that first 2 to 3 hours, where you're most productive, doing something that doesn't require much of anything from you mentally. You can go on social when you're tired and you will do just fine. But you're not going to create any new healthful habits or get really tough tasks done when you're mentally and physically drained. So the when matters. Now you might be thinking, I don't work from home like you, Marcus, so I'm not able to start the most crucial task first thing in the morning because I need to get ready and roll out to work before I can get rolling. In this case, I'd actually recommend using that first small chunk of your day to take action on a habit you're working at implementing. So let's say getting more movement into your day is that goal. Go for a walk first thing in the morning. Prep your coffee maker the night before, lay out your clothes ahead of time, and make it as easy as possible to follow through with that action first thing in the morning. Now, if it's not walking, maybe it's eating more healthily, then you can use that time to make yourself an awesome breakfast. If it's neither walking or nutrition related, it could be going for a workout. Do that first. Whatever you have the most resistance around, but truly want to implement into your life in a meaningful way, do that first. Eat the frog. Now, once you get that first difficult task done, do the next most difficult task and so on. It's really just ruthless prioritization that is going to have you feel and be your most productive. Now, a quick note on structuring, scheduling, and protecting your time. If you are in the I want to implement more movement in my day camp, I'd recommend that you literally write walk in your calendar with a specific time you're going to do it and protect that time as if it were a business meeting with your boss or a dinner date with a friend. It's important that it holds the same weight because that's the only way you're going to do it consistently. In this instance, you now have a walking date with yourself every morning at 7:30 a.m., say, and it's not something that only gets done if nothing else comes up, because something will always come up. So if it's a priority for you, schedule it and protect it. You can also get creative with this stuff. So for example, you can catch up on calls while walking. You can listen to a podcast like this. You may even be walking and listening to this right now. And if so, I love it. You can stack tasks or pair them. So for example, walk to go get groceries, walk to the bank, walk to a coffee shop, walk your kid to school, walk your partner to work, whatever. There are tons of ways in which to implement this stuff into your life. And it's not a matter of if you can do it, it's how you can do it, if it's a priority. Now I want to run you through a sample day in my life just to show you exactly how I structure my time in order to be as productive as possible and set myself up for success. Now, like I mentioned at the outset, the key to productivity is a solid sleep first and foremost, so we'll start with my routine the night before. I typically turn my phone on airplane mode around 8 p.m., and I do this because it's a representation that my workday is totally done and that it's time to start winding down a little bit. I'll typically watch a show or maybe some YouTube vids, and I'm sure to keep the light down both in the room that I'm in and also on my computer screen because I don't want to stimulate myself with light to the point where my body thinks it's daytime because obviously it's nighttime. And then once I finish my show or whatever I was watching, I set up my coffee for the following morning, I brush my teeth, and I crawl into bed. Then in the morning, I'll wake up without an alarm and I'll meditate first thing for 10 minutes. And I don't necessarily do this for productivity purposes. I do it to check in with myself. It's sort of like a, hey, morning Marcus, how'd you sleep, bud? How are you feeling today? And where are you at? And I use my Apple Watch to guide my meditation. So the watch has a breathe app in it and it vibrates for the inhale and it goes still for the exhale. So I run through 2 5-minute segments and it gives me my heart rate at the end of each segment. And monitoring your morning heart rate can actually tell you quite a bit. So for example, if I haven't slept well, if I maybe had a few drinks the night before, or if I ate dinner too late, or I just ate too much, all of these things will impact my heart rate for the worse. And then on the other hand, if I button up everything on the lifestyle front, my heart rate will be lower. So it's a bit of a gauge to let you know where you're at habit-wise or lifestyle-wise or how that previous day or days have gone. That's just a quick little aside on heart rate. Now, after that little 10-minute session, I'll get up and make my bed always, no matter what. I watched a Navy SEAL commencement speech probably 5-ish years ago about making your bed, and I have not missed a day since. It feels good. Then I'll head into the kitchen and turn on the coffee maker. I'll fire up my computer and I start writing. My phone is still on airplane mode because I don't even want to tempt myself to use it, especially when I haven't completed my toughest task for the day yet. Now, writing, which is actually podcast prep, is the activity that I have the most resistance around. So I always do it first. No phone, no emails, nothing until my writing or podcast-ish job task is complete. After I wrap up with the podcast stuff, I'll dive into some email and do my client check-ins for that day as well. Now, most likely 2 to 3 hours or so has gone by since I've woken up. Coffee is done and I'll put together some breakfast. So right now I've been having some protein and fruit, which yesterday looked like a chicken and egg scramble with some veggies and an apple. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I used to eat 2 meals per day. I now have switched to 3 meals per day. That's just an alteration that I've made because I feel better that way right now. You know, nutrition is a moving target. So right now I'm eating 3 meals per day, but I used to, for years, would only have 2 meals per day. I would fast through the morning, have a bigger lunch and a bigger dinner. Point being, nutrition is a moving target and you just adjust based on what you're feeling, your lifestyle, your goals, all that sort of good stuff. Then I'll let my food digest, I'll wrap up with my client check-ins and head off to the gym about an hour or an hour and a half after eating. Now, for myself, the gym at this point is automatic. It's not a matter of if I'm going or not. But if it wasn't automatic, I do that first and foremost, likely right after I drink my coffee. But again, the podcast stuff is the toughest for me, so I prioritize that. After I finish my workout, which I walk to and from and or take public transit, depending on what city I'm in, because I got rid of my car 2 years ago, which I actually might put a podcast together about that because it's been a really cool experience. I had a car for like 15 years and I decided to ditch it 2 years back and not get another one. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you know I spend a lot of time out of the country, digital nomading around. So hypothetically, if I did have a car, it would just be sitting there not being used most of the time anyway. But I have seen a massive uptick in sense of well-being, as well as a whole bunch of other cool benefits. So let me know if you'd be interested in that podcast topic, and I will be glad to put an episode together on it. But back to the day. Workout is wrapped. I come home and I make some lunch, and then I do the bulk of my learning for the day. So I invest 10 hours per week at the absolute minimum in learning, typically via podcast, because I want to be the best coach I possibly can be, and I just love to learn. Now, my learning isn't always about nutrition, sleep, and training stuff specifically, but it often is. I'll listen to essentially anything that I think will give me insights into being better at what I do. This is also when I'll get my steps in, because it's just as easy to move while listening to a podcast as it is to sit there. I actually find that I retain the information better while I'm on the move. Not working out, because I find it hard to concentrate on a podcast while I'm working out because I'm so focused on the given exercise that I'm doing. But walking on the other end, totally doable. Post-walk and learning, I'll head back home and I'll check in on my clients that I spoke with earlier via email. I'll set up a social media post and then I'll start putting together some dinner. Post-dinner, I'll wrap things up with work and I'll relax with a show or something like it. And that's pretty much all she wrote during the week. Saturday and Sunday look a little bit different because I don't work as much as I do Monday through Friday. However, I still do like to do some work every day. I also take a break from my 2 hours of learning and meditation on the weekends. So the weekends are definitely lighter, but personally, I love what I do and I just end up working every day, even if it's only for an hour or so, which is rare. It's typically more, but either way. Okay, so now I want to give you some really actionable takeaways that I use on a daily basis that you can implement in your life and get more done. So the first one is something I call the 2 birds, 1 stone approach. And simply put, it's task pairing. I spoke a little bit about this before with the walking and the podcast, but you know I like everyone to get 10,000 steps in per day, me included. But my learning is also really important to me. So I pair these 2 tasks. I listen to podcasts or audiobooks while I walk. This way I can get both done at the same time. But if I insisted on my learning being from a physical book, it would literally add 2 hours of work time to my day because going for a walk while reading isn't all that practical. Side note, I find it hilarious when people are walking down the street reading a book. I also find it really endearing, but that is just not me. I'd probably run into poles and sprain ankles, but to each their own. Now, the second practical takeaway is around your phone. If you still got your notifications on your phone, meaning you get notified every time you get a like, there's a weather announcement, a news piece, a Twitter comment, or whatever notifications are out there these days, I'd recommend getting rid of them all. The only notification I have on my phone is either via a call or a text from someone. That is it. I implemented this probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it legitimately changed my life. And the reason is attention and focus are really valuable resources. So if you've got constant notifications grabbing your attention, you're going to get far less done throughout the day. And not to mention, talk about a recipe for ADD, right? There's a serious cost for being constantly distracted and task switching. Multitasking is not possible. We can only do one meaningful thing at a time. Oh, and also I keep my phone on silent 24/7. It just doesn't make noise. And this is potentially where I've lost you, because you might be like, there is no way I'm keeping my phone on silent. I get it, but definitely remove the notifications. That is the biggie here. The reason I keep my phone on silent is just because I find the text noises distracting and kind of annoying, and it just diverts my attention, so I eliminate that. The third takeaway is to structure social media and email use. So probably 4 or 5 years ago now, I set a limit on how many times I checked email per day. And the reason I implemented this was because I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek with Tim Ferriss, and he mentions in the book, it's a question essentially, would you do your laundry one piece at a time or wait until you have a whole load and do it then? In regards to email. And I was like, shit, that makes so much sense. So now I check my email no more than 2 to 3 times per day. Now, I have an email-based business. My coaching is all done online, and I'm easily able to provide a great service by checking email no more than 2-3 times per day. Now, some folks have different job setups, so that might not be all that implementable for you, but you might actually be surprised. As far as structuring social media stuff, I have a limit in that I can only check Instagram and Facebook 3 times per day max, and I actually track this. I know I'm a fucking nerd, all right? I've been doing this for a couple years, and I slipped up since March with this whole COVID thing. And so just 2 weeks ago, I implemented it again, and man, I feel so much better. And ironically, I've been posting more content for you guys over the last few weeks while spending less total time on social, which has been really cool, yet unexpected. It's sort of counterintuitive, actually. And the reason is because I'm really making those 3 times I check Instagram and Facebook count versus opening the app 20 times per day because I wasn't abiding by the limit I had set for myself. In order to make the social media checking thing less tempting, or essentially have it be an easier transition, I'd recommend keeping your phone in a different room or at least out of hand's reach, because what I noticed when I first implemented this was that I was reaching for my phone out of pure habit. And then when I put it across the room, I noticed myself go to grab it, but it wasn't there. So it both snapped me out of the habit, and it also had me be a lot more aware of just how much I was using my phone habitually, which was pretty sobering, to be honest. The fourth takeaway is to limit yourself to Wi-Fi. This is, I guess you could say, a bit more of an advanced, if that's even a word in this case, tactic, because I know how folks love using their phones and the data on them. But I've been traveling throughout the US, Mexico, and Colombia over the past 2 years, and I'm pretty proud to say that I've never gotten a data plan. And reason being is I don't want to use my phone more than I already do. And I know that if I have data, I just will. It's too tempting. So I limit myself to Wi-Fi. I obviously use Wi-Fi at home when I'm working and doing different things. If a restaurant or a cafe has Wi-Fi, I use it, but I have to actually ask for the network and the password. So sometimes I just sit there with a coffee and my thoughts because it's an effort barrier that I'm not willing to go through in certain instances. Kind of crazy, right? Maybe taking the view people watch. It's actually pretty fun. My fifth and final tip to be more productive is just to take better care of yourself. Eating well, moving adequately, and sleeping like a champ is going to have you be way more productive in and of itself. So setting yourself up to be a healthier, better functioning human is key. That means quality nutrition, moving lots, and sleeping well. Now, like anything, you are going to need to tailor all of this stuff to your lifestyle because no 2 lives are exactly the same. It's just like nutrition. When you compound work, family, relationships, preferences, goals, all of it, there are no 2 lifestyles that look the exact same. So use these implementable tips in a way that fits for you and what you want in your life. For example, checking email 2 to 3 times per day might not even be possible given the urgency of your job, let's say. So modify that in a way that works for you. Or maybe you like the idea of getting rid of some notifications on your phone, but not all of them. Great, do that. Maybe you get a whole bunch of spam email right now because you're subscribed to a whole bunch of old email lists. You could commit to unsubscribing to all of the ones that don't serve you for the next month versus deleting the email and getting it again and again and again and just deleting it each time. Essentially, what this whole productivity episode is about is creating space. Creating space for you to be less consumed with devices, notifications, emails, essentially anything that grabs your attention and removes it from the moment, because the moment is your life, right? And just be aware that if you do truly implement these practical takeaways, it's probably going to feel a little bit odd at first. But again, that's the creating space part. It's creating space for better conversations and relationships, more connection, essentially a more fulfilling experience day to day. Because if you can get more done in less time, that just gives you more time to do other stuff that you enjoy. I know we started talking about productivity, but really, what's the point of being more productive? It's about feeling good about the work that you do and, of course, contributing and feeling proud of your efforts. But it's also about freeing up more time to invest with the people that you love and have a wider array of cool experiences, which at the end of the day is just what we call life. If you'd like to apply for one-on-one coaching with me, you can head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. Follow me up on Instagram at N1Fitness and friend me on Facebook at Marcus Sadu. Thanks so much for listening. I would highly encourage you to implement just one of the practical takeaways right now, because while this information is interesting, in my opinion at least, it's only going to add to your life or benefit you if you take action with it. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.